the chief political correspondent for The Sun, a fantastic man who's permanently on his Instagram with a pint in his hand, but today is not. Jack Elsom, good afternoon. Where are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. I'm currently sat in my office in Parliament. I usually try and go somewhere a bit quieter, but I was so busy writing stuff for the Sun newspaper tomorrow that I completely forgot about this interview and have just logged on in the past 30 seconds.
What are you writing about tomorrow? What can you give us? Heads up?
I'm writing about Keir Starmer's migration crackdown, or not so much a crackdown as I heard you put it earlier. But I'm sure we can get into some of that.
I listen. On the one hand, you've got a socialist Labour Prime Minister. You could say, Harry Cole, look. Yeah, Harry Cole, look. Come here, Harry, come here. Used to come on the show, far too important. Now he's buggered off. I can't be doing with it. Anyway, there we go.
He's gone.
He's gone. Listen, unbelievable. Do you notice the way he just morphed behind me like that?
He does that often. He says his name 3 times and he appears.
Well, there you go. Harry. The thing is, right, I mean, on the one hand, you'd go, right, so has he listened to the British public, or the fact that there is a consensus, I believe, in this country, which is this needs dealing with? You can say that, but absolutely everybody who has texted and called and emailed and whatever, voice noted this afternoon and throughout the day on this station has said the same thing, which is, hold on a minute, this is from a man who spent years opposing stricter migration controls. There's no cap, there's no numbers, there's no targets. Yes, it's upset a few of the vegan left-wing nutters, like was that Labour MP Nadia Whitome and Zara Sultana, the independent MP. They're going, oh, it's racist and vile. But to me, Jack, and I'm being really honest, this is pure political posturing, and I don't believe for a minute it will make a blind bit of difference, because I don't think it's his conviction. I think it's reaction politics again, pal. I really do.
Well, I think you're certainly right that Keir Starmer has changed his tune on migration in his pretty short political career, from a man that once said that all immigration rules were racist to someone that is now saying that Britain can be turned into an island of strangers if we don't get a grip on the influx coming in. It is a remarkable gear shift, I think, from the Prime Minister. He essentially today tore up decades of Treasury orthodoxy, which was that migration is an unalloyed good for the economy, to something which actually needs to be combated pretty quickly. And I think you are right to diagnose this pretty blatant change of heart to the public reaction to migration in the past few years, which is now playing out in the opinion polls and the local elections, which handed a pretty emphatic victory to the Reform Party last week. And so definitely Keir Starmer is reacting to events. If it actually manages to translate in some sort of bigger controls on migration, then I think all better for it. But I think at the moment, this package, while a start, it really remains to be seen whether it will actually bring migration down to the numbers which much of the public wants.
Or it'll become law because it's merely a white paper. But the truth of the matter is, and I bring him up time and time again, Donald Trump, he doesn't care if he gets elected on a package. That's what he puts forward. This man, and I said it just now to Isabel, I'll say it to you, I felt during that election campaign that it was very much about, I'll have everybody. Everybody can come and sit in my tent. I'm going to save Britain. Workers and come on, here we come. Everybody can. The reality is, of course, is that you then end up in a position where you're trying to please all the people all the time. And I think that the problem with Starmer, Jack, is that there's no authenticity. I don't think people feel that it's organic. I don't think that they know what he stands for. Don't get me on Badenoch. She didn't even open her mouth, for God's sake. Now, Nigel Farage has not doubled, but he's doubled down on something he said before the last election, actually, and I had that pointed out to me earlier. I mean, he has said that, yes, Farage is making promises he obviously can't matter. And he was pushed, wasn't he, by a Sky journalist as to how would you do it? And he said, illegal migration must end. And I completely agree with that. He did say that skilled migration for vacancies where there are gaps, where people come on a contract, they don't bring their families, but they pay tax and they benefit the system, that's a different kettle of fish. I agree with him. One of the other things that's come out, which I'd love your take on about this politically, is that he's a year in, Starmer, and he's backtracking and doing donuts left, right and centre. You know, we've had the grooming gang thing as well today. But a lot of people are now saying, OK, we're with reform, but how would reform do it? And one of the things that keeps coming up, Jack, is the blob, the civil service. It doesn't matter what political party you're in, you won't be able to get past these people. They run the country, and it doesn't matter who is the Prime Minister. Let's just go fast forward and imagine that Nigel Farage in 4 years' time walks into 10 Downing Street. Do you believe, as a political correspondent for The Sun, that he's got the balls, the determination or the courage to take that blob on? Because that's what the British people want, definitely.
Well, you're right. And Nigel Farage, obviously, is making no bones about the fact now that he wants to be Prime Minister. But as you said, if he actually gets into the machine, he's going to find a lot of resistance from what you described as the blob. We know that a lot of civil servants have been pretty squeamish about immigration crackdowns in the past. They've made no bones about that. And I think that some of the stuff that Nigel Farage wants to do definitely will rub up against that. Take one of his policies, for example. I'm not sure if it's still his policy, but it definitely was Reform's policy at some point to literally take people back who land on small boats in this country and take them straight back to France. Now, at the moment, it seems that that would violate some sort of international law, and therefore, if it was ordered by Nigel Farage to do that, civil servants would just down tools. We don't have a system like in America, where after every election you have a massive influx of political advisors who go into the administration. We have a big civil service here, and at the moment, Nigel Farage, I think, is going to be at pains to be able to tackle that.
It was you who told me after the last election that only 200 people, which is frightening, but an important point, would change their jobs. 100 ministers and 100 sort of special advisors. Let me bring you to that specific point. I wrote it down. You said, let's go forward 4 years. Farage says, you lot, and they'll down tools. Can you explain to me how we live in a political system, right, that says, and I quote, unelected, highly paid officials have more rights than elected, democratically elected politicians? That's ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Yes, and I think the civil service would say that in their code they wouldn't be able to break any sort of international laws. Now, whether Nigel Farage could, in fact, change those laws or pull us out of various treaties, I'm sure that would be the answer. He's saying, he's already said today that within his first few weeks as Prime Minister, he'll pull us out of the European Convention of Human Rights, something Keir Starmer ruled out entirely today. But I do think that public opinion is shifting on this. I think that a few years ago, most of the public wouldn't have even heard of the ECHR. But now it seems to be treading on national sovereignty so much. And you have case after case in the newspapers every single day of foreign offenders managing to dodge deportation by essentially weaponizing these human rights laws to make absolutely bogus claims. I'm glad that Keir Starmer today has seemed to have made some progress on it, although the details of actually how it's going to be implemented and whether judges will listen to it seems a bit wishy-washy. So hopefully we can get some clarity on that.
Be really interesting, got to finish, but be really interesting to see whether this change to significantly reduce immigration cuts through at the polls. I think people will see through it. Can I just say, Harry who? Jack Elsom, you're a legend, a lovely office there, the Sun in Parliament. Who? Harry is disappeared. Do you know what I mean? It's like Tice, unreliable now. I'm joking. Good one, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Jack Elsom, the Sun's chief political correspondent, live and exclusive on Talk.